I'm Phoebe Weinberg-Hess. I'm the author of Princess Claudia and the Freckles, and I'm here today to read to you the first chapter of this lovely children's book. I hope that you'll enjoy the book, and I hope that very soon you'll go visit the website, www.freewebs.com/bwcats, and find out more about Claudia and all of her family and friends. Meanwhile, let's read the first chapter. Princess Claudia and the Freckles. Chapter 1, Saturday morning. Even the comforter pulled over her head was not enough to keep the sunlight from waking Claudia. Slowly she pulled the blankets down from just peeking level and looked out into her bedroom to get a feel for the day ahead. She was alone in her room except for Peach Fuzz, the old cat, who was curled up in a ball of fur on the top of her comforter. It was quiet and warm, so it must be Saturday. On Saturdays there was no alarm clock blaring, no older sister chiding, and no maid scurrying about setting out clothes. Her room was fully bright, which told Claudia she was waking up at 8 o'clock in the morning and not the weekday time of 6:30. At that early hour of the morning, the sun had barely begun to rise, and the dim room seemed more like bedtime than breakfast. But the real pleasure of a Saturday morning was that Claudia could get out from underneath her covers and stand in a warm bedroom, since there had been time for both the furnace and the fireplace to heat up. Castles are always cold, and it's necessary to have the heat on every morning except in the hottest time of the summer. Claudia lived in a castle because Claudia was a princess. Saturdays were special to Claudia for all sorts of reasons beyond the bedroom being warm. She would have the pleasure of her mother's company at breakfast. Claudia's mom, Queen Jean, was very busy, but on Saturdays she always poured a second cup of coffee and sat down to talk about the day's plans with Claudia. "We need to check in with each other once in a while," Claudia's mom would say. "So, tell me what's on your agenda for today." Claudia didn't understand what an agenda was, but she did know that was her mom's way of saying, "What's up, and what plans do you have for today?" Claudia wondered why her mother always talked like a teacher. But then Claudia's mother used to be a teacher, and so she figured that teachers just forgot how to talk like real people after a while. Saturdays also meant that her older sister Elizabeth would be out of the castle for most of the day at different lessons. Claudia could count on being an only child until at least 2 or 3 in the afternoon, and Saturdays meant no school. School was really hard for Claudia, but that's another story for another time. So back to Claudia and the comforter and peeking out from under. Slowly the blankets unfolded to reveal a short nugget of a girl with curly all the way to wild brown hair and big brown eyes. Once Claudia figured out all the Saturday signals, she popped out of bed and into her robe and slippers. After the usual morning rituals, Claudia headed down the hall to the breakfast room and the anticipated time with her mom. There was her mom, head down, working on the day's royal decrees and edicts that were spread out on the table with a few proclamations she hadn't gotten to yet. There was a cup of coffee, filled with the rapidly cooling bitter brew that Claudia wished she was allowed to drink. And there was Elizabeth. Wait! She wasn't part of the normal Saturday morning routine. Claudia was furious. "What are you doing here?" Claudia blurted out toward her sister before she even greeted her mother. Elizabeth just glared at her. "Isn't it nice to have both my girls here with me for breakfast?" said Claudia's mom, never noticing the icy looks that each daughter gave to the other. "What a lovely treat. So, Claudia, what do you have on your agenda for today?" It took every bit of effort Claudia could muster to pull her eyes away from Elizabeth and focus on her mother's face and words. What was she going to do for the day? "I think I'm going to go swimming. It's sunny and the outdoor pool is heated," Claudia responded, still wondering why her sister was home on a Saturday morning and how that fact would inevitably mess up her day. And then it happened. The words that told Claudia her day, perhaps her life, would be ruined. "Make sure you put on your sunscreen, Claudia. Be careful you don't get too much sun. Your freckles are coming out." Her mother said this and then added as she put her head back down to work on her papers, "Although I must admit, I think your freckles are really sweet." The words hung in the air, hovering, waiting for Elizabeth to digest them and to see the possibility for making Claudia's life miserable. "Oh, Claudia, your freckles are so sweet and cute and perky," Elizabeth cooed. But Elizabeth threw out the words sweet and cute so that Claudia understood the true meaning of the word. Elizabeth was determined to remind her that only Claudia had freckles. Elizabeth had flawless porcelain skin that was regal and never reacted like Claudia's did to the sun. Elizabeth did not have freckles. Claudia's head was full of Elizabeth's reminder of just how different they were as she went running from the room, all the way down the long stone corridors back to her bedroom. She slammed the door and threw herself on the bed. She hated her sister, and she hated the thought that their mother was both clueless and freckleless. Claudia resented her sister for ruining breakfast with her mother, for wrecking her perfect Saturday, and for having princess skin instead of common freckles. Claudia resented everything about her sister, and there wasn't anything she could do about it. Claudia was good at wallowing in trouble. She always saw herself as the one no one understood, and someone who was forced to suffer endlessly. She wasn't good at listening to her mom and dad when they tried to talk it out. Often that was the last thing that Claudia wanted, and today was no different. She didn't want to talk about how cute her freckles were. She didn't want to talk about how pretty she was, or even that everyone had something about them that they didn't like. She didn't want to talk at all. She wanted to do something. And even though Claudia was only 7, she was old enough to know that when you wanted to do something about something, there was only one place to go and one person to see. So Claudia dragged her sad self off the bed and stomped down the hall and then down the stairs to the basement apartment of the resident wizard, Oop. Besides being the kingdom's best and only wizard, Oop was also Claudia's uncle. Off she went to see Uncle Oop. Oop was known for his potions and lotions and an occasional brown bag filled with something magical. Sometimes Claudia and Elizabeth called him Uncle Scary, but never to his face. The girls weren't really afraid of their uncle. It's just that Oop was different than any grown-up they knew. Most of the time he was what you might expect from a wizard, a sort of normal different, but then there were times when he was just full of surprises. And that ends Chapter 1 of Princess Claudia and the Freckles.